Hi guys, this is Sandy from Messy Paper Crafts and welcome to today's episode of What's in This Box. And I am super excited today because one of my most favorite paper line came in, which is Stamperia. And look at this amazing new Sir Vagabond range. This is called Sir Vagabond Aviator. And I just love all these images. This is stunning. And let's go through all of this. Let me just grab this out for you so you can see this whole stunning range. Let me get the box out of the way. And you can see we actually have more collections by Stamperia. But as you can see, this is quite a lot, and this is only the Sir Vagabond Aviator. So I thought we will start with this first, because it's simply amazing what Stamperia does here. I think I always called them Stamperia, but I believe they're called Stamperia, so I hope I say this correctly. And let's start with the 12 by 12 paper. So Stamperia, they're really good about giving you different options for all your different projects. And as per usual, we have this 12 by 12 paper, which is great for scrapbooking. And then we also have 8 by 8 and 6 by 6. So usually I always recommend to get two of them, just because they really work well hand in hand. So a lot of times, if you just want to make a card and you're not into any bigger projects, you might think this is great, right? Because this is already a 6 by 6 card front, so you don't have to cut anything. It's pretty great just to have this as a background. But then the details in itself, you have to cut a lot to make it interesting because they're kind of small, so you don't really have a focal point here. But if you get this one, the 8 by 8, then this works really nicely together. And I will show you in a second why. So let's just go through these new looks that they created here. I just think this is stunning. So the first is on the left, what they usually call a bonus page, because a lot of companies, they just use the front as their advertising, and then it's kind of like a throwaway if this is blank. But what they do instead is that they give you something where you can cut happily into, because there isn't so much exciting stuff going on here, right? So you can just cut this out, and this way you don't have to deal with their company name and so on. But I think with Stamperia, it actually works both ways. So you can cut out the inside with these labels, which is great because they're all aviator related and travel and flying. They have these really cool stained vintage or retro tags. And these are pretty cool, like adventure, steampunk flight, travel, enjoy, and so on. But often it also works to cut out the front if you just want a strip for a background. So a lot of times this is actually big enough to also be kind of cool as a layer on your project. So kind of cool, works maybe for both if you want. And then we have these really nice designs here. So this is the Sir Vagabond Aviator, who flies to New York this time. So this guy was already in London and Asia, and I think the Lady Vagabond was on a ship or something, like the Lady Vagabond lifestyle. So I just love these ideas of these characters, that they're traveling the world, but in this really cool vintage or steampunk style. So here they are in New York, and you get this map of New York on the other side. Then we have this girl here who is the world's greatest aviator. And here comes to play what I thought about 8 by 8 being great as a focal point, because you could use this paper as a 6 by 6 background, and then she would be pretty cool as a focal point on it. So a lot of times the 12 by 12 focal point might be now too big, at least for a card. It's great for the scrapbooking or art journaling aspect, or if you want to have a bigger frame for something, if you create artwork or a canvas or something. So then this is perfect. But if you're more into card making, then this might be great. Or of course you can just cut different elements off here, and then that works pretty nicely as well. Here we have another background, really cool colors. I like all the stains and grunginess that is going on here, like really distressed. So if you're into Tim Holtz and the distressed line or something, then you might really love all these like stains and all the stuff that's going on. And if you cut out certain elements, you can use your distress ink and then make it even more vintage and distress it further with, just edging it more brown or something like that. Like vintage photo works well for that if you like this. So here again, you can cut out these elements and then just, mark them even darker around the edges with your distress ink. So this is really cool. And here once again, I really love the size of this, because if you would use this as your background and now imagine this as your focal point or as another layer, I really think this works well hand in hand. So I just love it. All these different dimensions that just give you so much flexibility, and it's so versatile. It's just stunning. Here we have another old school map, very vintage. Here we have these steampunk elements with this hot air balloon and the zeppelin. Really nice. Then here is more steampunk, the clock. That's really nice as well. And this is really funky, like a steampunk raven or crow or something. And then also here, I suppose this is also a bird or a plane or Superman, or how does this saying go? I don't know. But yeah, just funky with all these gears and all these different elements. Here we have another map, and then we have more of these elements and tags. And I just love all of these individual rectangulars down here. It's so great for layering it all together to make something very interesting. And then I love this as well with these news articles, or what's that supposed to be, like vintage newspaper, and this old plane. And then at the end we have more cutouts, so you can do fussy cutting. And now you see also, if you would do this on here in comparison, how small these elements would be. But if you just want to create a card, then this 8x8 on this background, that would work really well, because here the elements would be just very small. But here they work really nicely with this together, or as I said, with this together as well as a background. So lots of different options here, really, all different sizes. But how about if you're not into the fussy cutting at all, if you're not really so keen on using your hands to do all this cutting, because lots of people think this is very meditating and they find this very relaxing. But I love that it's already done for me, to be honest. So in the Stamperia line, you get lots of different die cuts and different die cut designs again. So in itself, they're very different. So with the Aviator, you get the old school die cuts and you get clear die cuts. And I wasn't quite sure what to expect when they said clear die cuts, because I bought last time these acetate sheets. They were like A4, but they were transparent. And I loved the design so much that I actually framed them and I hung them. But I wasn't quite sure what to make with them. I'm sure there are hundreds of options out there and probably awesome. But I did not really know how to do a tutorial for you if they are clear. However, these clear die cuts, they're very different. Also, not these big sheets, of course. These are clear die cuts. And let me take this out. Well, actually, I want to take them all out because they're like gorgeous. They're like all these different designs that you just saw in the paper. Like we have this lady again. We have these tags. We have the Sir Vagabond. And then this lady aviator, the world's greatest aviator. So lots of different things, but it's not clear as in transparent like what I had before, but it's colored and clear. I don't know, it's not clear because I can't see through, but it has this really shiny, glossy, like a photograph. So you have this gloss on here. And they're just stunning. I'm obsessed with those. They're just so cool. I don't know why. They just blew my head off. I have to order more of these because you have to get them. I mean, seriously, they're just so beautiful. And they're not too thick either. So they have a really good weight to them that if you want to put them on a card or something and you're worried that the postage might get very expensive. So with these, they're actually quite, like a photograph, I would say, with this kind of glossy on it. And very different to the, which I think original die cuts, which are not paper die cuts like with other companies, like with Mintay or other companies. You get these die cuts and they're like paper, so they're very thin. And then I often recommend, if you want to give them more dimension, to actually pop them up with a foam tape so that they stand out a little bit, because they're just paper. But these are actually cardboard, so these are really thick. They're even, I don't know if you see this, but they bend a little bit because they're like that thick. And I love these as well, just because they give you such a great dimension. And also, if you're more into this matte look, so here there is no glossy aspect to them. That's just like matte cardboard. But I think it's so cool that Stamperia gives you both. So you have this really thick cardboard for a lot of dimension, which is awesome. Or you have this like shiny thinner material, which is great too. And again, you have different sizes. So you have this lady that's quite big here, but in this package, there's a lady that's a little bit smaller. So once again, it really depends, of course, what you're into, right? Do you want to make bigger things, smaller things, cards, scrapbooking? So there is like no limit with these things. You can make everything. But I just thought I will show you these because I wasn't quite sure what to expect when it said clear die cut. I thought transparent, but these are obviously with color. Let me just get this out of the way. I'll sort this out later. And these, do I get this? All right. These are the same sentiments like from the bonus sheet. Again, if you don't want to cut them, you can get them in this clear look as well. I just love them. It looks so cool. So clear die cuts and chipboard die cuts. Very different, but awesome. And of course, I also ordered, just in case if you wanted this older range, that's the original range, I guess a couple of years ago or last year. I'm not sure when they came out, but we have those as well. So this way you have the new chipboard, the older ones, the clear ones. So lots of variety to embellish all of your projects, different sizes, which I think is great. And let's talk about another one to embellish your projects. Actually, two more. You also can have these fussy cutting elements. Once again, if you don't mind fussy cutting or if you even enjoy it, then you have these collectible albums. These are 6 by 12 inch. So again, gives you lots of different variety. And here you can either just get this as a background. So again, if you're making a card or something, then I think this is perfect. Or a junk journal. Again, just to have a different format, I think is really important. Gives you so many options. And you have these cutouts here. So again, this raven crow bird or something like that. And these vagabonds. You also have them left and right, depending on your project and in which direction they are supposed to look, which I think is pretty cool. So both sides they can look into. Then you have these airplanes, the lady again, also left and right. You have these different kind of like tags, I suppose, or rectangulars with all these different ladies, which I think is super cool. Let's see, little tags, like lots of things that are quite easy to cut out. So Usually, to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of fussy cutting because it really hurts my hand. But these shapes, they're very easy to cut out. And I just love these tags, and I love that you have these backgrounds as well. So lots of different options in here. I love this as well for the jacket, the boots. Looks very graphic, almost like a photograph. And then you have these different number plates here, all this vintage and retro look, super cool. But talking about these backgrounds, if you want these backgrounds again as a different size, I have one more option for you, because Stamperia is awesome. They also give you backgrounds. So if you need just more variety, let's say you don't want to cut into the background because you like the front of the page, but you also need the background, then you have this one. So you can cut into it and you have the background. So this is just amazing, because I wish more companies would think about that, because sometimes it's such a struggle to decide, do I really want to cut into the background because I love the background, but somehow I want it also for my focal image. This is amazing, perfect. So let's open this and see how this compares to the one that we just looked at. So here, take this out. Like I said, sometimes you just want this focal image here, for example, and you don't want to cut in here, right? So I'll do it this way around. Let's say here you have this again and you have this again, and then you just can decide which background do you sacrifice. Do you want to cut it from here or do you want to cut it from here? So here I would maybe say this background looks so cool. You might just want to keep it as a background, right? But maybe this one is a little bit more boring. So you can cut this Statue of Liberty out from here. I think this is great. So you have all these different backgrounds here in case you need them as well. I mean, how great is that? I mean, sure, on one way you could argue you could just buy another book of those, and then of course you have the choice again that the background could be a background and you can still cut out of here. But just in case you want a slightly different design, then you have these backgrounds. It's amazing, just so cool that they thought this all through. I love it. And again, 8x8 or 12x12, your choice. And let's talk about more embellishments, because Stamperia didn't stop here. We also have these really cool chipboard cuts, chippies, I believe they're called. And again, it's this very thin, I want to say MDF wood, like a really thin layer, and like very intricate detail that you can pop out here. So here we have this whole New York related chipboard for your embellishments. Then we have one that's more aviator related. So we have the helmet, the plane, clouds, explore, like all these elements. And then we have one that's more adventure related. So we have the steampunk hot air balloon and the cityscape and travel journal. So this is pretty cool. Lots of different ideas so that you can embellish your projects just to give it more dimension. And if you like to work with even more embellishments, we also have fitting for the steampunk, these gears. Pretty cool as well. So you can just pop them out, put them onto your projects, and yeah, just give it a lot of different dimension. And you can also color them or put paste on them or wax, like so many different choices that you can make with these ones to just make it your own. And then we have these ones as well, these chipboards. And again, different sizes here. Like if you don't need a whole bag of these die cuts, then maybe you like these ones. So they're like just a few of those, but really nice. And these tags. So this is pretty cool as well. Lots of different gears, lots of steampunk. I just love all this adventure that's going on here. Really cool. Love all of that. And now, if you're into the mixed media look, you might also enjoy that Stamperia brought out stencils that were fitting to the Aviator line. So here we have this really cool brick look and pipes. So very industrial and steampunk, and looks really cool if you have a bigger like a canvas or like a bigger format, or like for your scrapbooking or art journal. And you can put like a texture paste on it, or like a crackle paste or something like that, just to give even more interest to all of your projects. Same with this clock. I mean, so cool, and such a nice time machine steampunk vibe, such a retro style. I love it. And then we also have this bridge here as well, because it's about New York. So really cool. And also these amazing stamps. I mean, how cool are these? When I saw them on the website, I got so excited. I'm like, oh my God, these are just stunning. And a really nice size for like a background in a card or like an art journal or anything really, even if it's a bigger project. Just so cool. And again, we have this similar to the stencil. Here we have these kind of this industrial pipe look with the bricks, and that also works well with this one here, where we have this kind of staircase, like typical New York style. And then one that's a little bit more steampunk once again, where we have this funky, is it a plane, is it a bat or bird kind of look with all these gears and super steampunky. It's called Aircraft. This is so cool. And then last but not least, actually, I've got one stencil to show you. Really cool. If you just want the Statue of Liberty, I mean, it couldn't be more New York than that. Such a great texture. Or you can also, if you're not into this one, you can just use your texture paste or wax or colors or whatever medium you enjoy. And you can just use the texture here for, just put it through the letters, and then you just add interest this way if you just want some text on some side of your project. So lots of variety here, which I think is nice, because maybe you're like, what do I do with the whole statue? But again, you can just use different elements. And last but not least, we have this really cool rice paper. I mean, this is just unbelievably gorgeous. So if you're into decoupage and decorating, or if you just like to use it for art journaling, or, as a card front or anything, this is really nice. And if you never used rice paper, I get one out here, because here's the whole set that I ordered. So as you can see, it's like very thin paper, but not too thin, because I feel if it becomes too thin, like a napkin, because with napkin and decoupage, we basically get rid of all the other layers and we just keep the front one that has a motif on it. But sometimes it becomes too thin. If you put it down into the glue, it kind of crumbles and rips. So this rice paper, it's really nice because it's thin enough that you can decoupage with it, but it still has some gravity to it, that you can put it down and just smooth it out without that it immediately rips or crumbles. So this is really nice. So really cool design with the Statue of Liberty. Then we have these really nice steampunk hot air balloons for a better word, like, just this whole steampunk look. And also this map of New York. I mean, how awesome is that? And this is not all. I will now show you the next box. So until then, stay messy, stay crafty, and I'll see you very soon.